So we've got Coach Prad with us. We're all very familiar with how he works and how he operates. He's been like a big presence in Indian football for such a long time, and we've seen you on TV, we've seen you on the touchline. How is life as Dempo CEO? How's this new chapter? It comes with a lot of responsibility. I know historic club. You've already clearly mentioned what the roadmap is for Dempo. So how have you been coping up with the role, and like how is it different from what we know about you from the past?
Well, I think it's been great. I mean, like 18 months now. It's going in the right direction, trying to achieve what we want to do. The idea is to obviously get back to where Dempo used to be, so top flight of Indian football, but just do it in a bit more in an organic way. So this academy, as you've seen, was set up about 7-8 years ago. So the idea is for the players who've played here to progress. And I think in Indian football, youngsters don't get enough chance to play top flight football. So what we've done this year is learn a little bit from, like clubs like Shillong Lojong, where I was at, and look at clubs like Minerva, where they've got their good academies, they're producing players that play at the top flight, but also at the same time making sure their teams are also going further up in the ladder. So we've split our team. Our senior teams focus completely on the qualification for the I-League. So they're in the 3rd division now, trying to get into the 2nd division by 2024. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well, we qualify for the I-League, and so that ticks one of the chapters. At the same time, parallel, we've got the under-23 team, so you can call our developmental team. And this year, for the first time, we've put them in the Goa Pro League. So we're playing with probably the youngest team in the entire Goa Pro League. So there's no senior pros in it, it's all primarily youngsters. And they're doing pretty well. Until yesterday, they were top of the table. They're the only team that's unbeaten. Yeah. So far so good. But you judge teams at the end of the season, not in the middle of the season. Yeah. So we'll see.
So coming more into the academy side of things, like I know, like in Goa, you have like a strong setup where you bring in young players. So in terms of players from outside Goa, like how do you look at that talent pool? Because India is like pretty diverse. Like you can find, like for example, if it's the Northeast, there are a lot of players. Do you have like scouting networks that look at players from outside Goa, and how do you operate that system, if I may ask?
Yeah, I think primarily in the past before I joined, it was primarily only 100% Goan players, both in the senior team and in the academy team as well. And we've realized that, look, that's only going to take you so far, because the reality is Goan football has declined. Goan football isn't what it used to be 15, 20 years ago. So if you're only picking from players from Goa, you're picking from a pretty limited talent pool, and that's not as strong as, let's say, you're getting players from the Northeast, as you mentioned, where the stats don't lie. Majority of the players in top flight in Indian football, whether it's ISL and I-League, come from your Manipur, Mizoram. Those two are the biggest producers in terms of per capita. Kerala's producing a lot of good players. So I think this season what we did, with our Goa Pro League team, we picked up a player from Kerala, a centre-back, and we strengthened by adding 4 or 5 players from Manipur. Because we'd seen them over here playing for different teams in the Santosh Trophy, national games, and I've got contacts, obviously, having worked in the Northeast, and I've got contacts through football, obviously, like ex-players who are in Kerala running academies now. So utilizing those kind of contacts as scouts, you could say, because it's people who know the way we want to play football, people who we trust their opinion, and obviously when you have been a coach and you've worked with these players, they know that you're trying to do what's best for those players as well. So a lot of it comes through ex-players of mine. And obviously sometimes we've seen them play live, and then we think we can further their development. Because what we can give in Goa, which other states can't give, is plenty of games. We've got like Goa Pro League should be 24 games a season. We've got an under-20 league, there's the Reliance League. There's a lot of football we can offer. So we can offer 40 games to players, which they may not get in, let's say, in Manipur, or maybe in Kerala it'll all get squashed towards the end of the season with the Kerala Premier League. You don't get it throughout the year. So I think that's an advantage, and obviously the facilities. So we've started to look a little bit broader, and I think we have to be. We have to have a pan-India scouting presence. We can't rely purely on talent in Goa, because again, you look at the reality of it. How many Goan goalkeepers are there, for example, in the top flight? Kattimani's there. Katti's been around for more than 10 years, right? The next top flight goalkeeper from Kerala, you'd say, is Albino, who's trying to resurrect his career now at Srinidhi. But then there's just a massive drop off. There's not many goalkeepers from here. And majority of the goalkeepers do come from Punjab, then the next possible thing is Kolkata.
Yeah.
So you have to look at hotspots for certain positions, especially. So.
Okay. And Dempo over the years have produced so many international players, and right now I've just been reading about it. There are a lot of young boys who are represented the nation across various age groups. So for them to sort of progress to the next level, like how are you like ensuring? Like, do you like? There's this popular saying which we've all heard, like the age doesn't matter.
Age doesn't matter.
So for them, like, have they been added to the reserves team who are playing the Goa Pro League, and like, are they getting a lot of games at senior level, or like, how do you see
like
them?
Vinay, who was with the Arrows project with the India junior team, he's in the senior team now.
Okay.
He's playing in the Goa Pro League, and now he's with the third division squad. Okay. We've got a couple of other boys who are with the age group teams, breaking into the senior team. But I think one of the problems, it's Indian football's problem, and Goa suffers because of it. I would say 90+% of players in Goa are the correct age. There's no age fudging compared to certain other states. So if you look at the representation in youth national teams in India, whether it's India under 16, India under 17, under 19, you'll find very few Goan players because of the age factor. You'll find a lot of players who obviously are doing better than these players from these states because they fudge the age by a minimum of 2 years, possibly sometimes up to 3 to 4 years. So there's a disadvantage that players suffer from Goa. And then, it's something that one person can't fix, and it's going to take a long time to fix it. And so I think what we can do is, you'll probably see a lot more late developers coming from Goa. So players who haven't played in the junior national teams but go on to do well later. And, which is fine. I mean, the likes of Sunil Chetri, Eugenson Lingdo, the list is endless, even I think to an extent Sandesh. A lot of them haven't played much for India juniors, but played significant minutes later on for the national teams. That's more important, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So.
And like, just coming back to the national team, like we're in that process of trying to qualify for the World Cup. I know it's like a very long road, but at least we have like a clear idea of what needs to be done and stuff. The first qualifier was like, it was an encouraging result against Kuwait. Second one was a bit of a reality check. So like, how do you see that kind of panning out? Like, in terms of the talent that you see here, do you see that, in maybe like next 3-4 editions, do you see India standing like a realistic chance of making it?
I think the chances have gotten better for multiple reasons. One, the simple reason is they're taking more teams, right? As soon as the quota increases for teams from Asia, there's a better chance. An Asian team hosting it always helps because that's one more spot. The second thing is, I think players have become more professional. If you look at the players in the ISL, it's an impact of maybe the last 10 years. It started with I-League clubs like Bengaluru FC and others where players are starting to look after themselves a lot better. The training was better, the fitness levels are better. And that's continued now with some of the ISL clubs. You've got good coaches coming in and putting in good practices, and the league's gotten longer. So players are getting towards how professional footballers are in the rest of the world. And I think ego's taken it to another level of that. I think both tactically and especially physically. You look at every single camp he has them in. There's expectations of what they need to come in when they come into the camp, what they need to be able to do there, and then maintain those levels through the season. And he's pretty clear about what he needs from his players in terms of work rate. And what is nice to see and encouraging to see now when the national team plays is we're not on the back foot, sitting back 10 men behind the ball, holding on for a 0-0 and maybe trying to like nick something from a set piece. We're playing on the front foot. We're trying to press teams, and you're seeing a lot more possession. We're not going to be playing some of the top teams in Asia, keeping the ball and dominating possession and beating them. When you have to play a certain way when you play against the likes of the top 6 teams in Asia. But at least we're not playing. You look at our youth teams when they'll win in SAF, and everyone go on about under 17, under 16, whichever team do well. And then when the next stage in Asian qualifiers, and you play against a Korea or a Japan or even a Vietnam and stuff like that, it is pretty much defensive football, trying to hit players. And that's what's reassuring to see with the senior national team. It's a bit more on the front foot, and so we're moving in the right direction. It's just, are we moving as quick as other teams in Asia, or can we, that gap's that big. The other teams are also improving. Japan's improving every day. They're trying to catch up with Europe, right? Korea's up there. So we've got to make sure that we're improving at a faster rate than those countries. Otherwise, our gap's never going to decrease. So that's the challenge.
Okay. And you've seen football across multiple tiers. Obviously, we speak about the second division I League, the I League, and the ISL, and everything. So when you compare the level of the Indian players who are playing in these three divisions, like, is that gap a little too high, or like how would you how do you make an assessment in terms of their levels? Like,
the salary gap is very high.
Yeah.
You've got players in the ISL who, you know, like, you take a simple, like, suppose you're one of our players and you've done well this season. You move from second division, third division team, and you move to an I League team comes in and signs you. You haven't suddenly become twice as good as you were last year. Yes, someone's noticed your talent and they think you can play at this level. It's just noticed your talent. But these players expect a 2x with their salary. And you go into ISL, they're like, I'm an ISL player now, and it's 4x.
Yeah.
Player isn't 4 times better than he was 2 years ago. He's just playing in a different league. So there's a huge disparity between that, and the reality is there's not that much difference between, obviously there's the top 20 players or top 25 players in the ISL that at a certain level. Then there's, you could say, sort of kind of plateaus a bit. And there are players in the I League who could play at this level, and vice versa. There are players in the I League who are better than some of the players in the ISL. And to an extent, there's a few in the third division, second division, third division, who can play at that level given the right opportunities. Maybe if they have the right agents, the right connections, or just sometimes it's luck. And vice versa. There are players at the top flight who you probably wouldn't. There are players in the ISL who've been offered to us and we wouldn't sign because we've got better in our academy. And that's the reality. But that's the nature of Indian football, because the leagues aren't long enough and they're not professional enough, especially at the lower levels. So, you know, an average player in the ISL will look better than the same level player in certain I League teams, because they just don't have that level of training. They don't have that level of professionalism, both in terms of like simple things, how they train, how they eat, how they look after themselves in the off season. So there's a lot of other factors that will influence that. But that said, I think overall the level's improving over the years. I think if you look at it from 10 years ago, the level of second divisions, the top teams in the second division are pretty good compared to they were 10 years ago. Obviously with more teams now in the I League, quality of I League, I think I League is really enjoyable to watch this season. I enjoy watching the I League at the moment. And ISL sort of plateaued where it is now. I think this season's a bit tough because it's been broken with all the national camps.
Okay,
it's a bit of a disjointed season, but I think, it's reached a level where it's going to pretty much settle at that level. Yeah.
Okay. And coming back to the academy, the operations of the academy, so we've got boys staying here. So how, like, what is the daily, like, routine for them, like, on a normal day? Like, how do they train? And
so the only ones that stay with us at the moment are the under 17 batch. So they're up early, they've already gone to school and colleges, right? So and then they come back around 1:30, 2 o'clock, eat, and then they train at 3:30. So that's pretty much their schedule. After that, they've got the tuition teacher comes, studies, dinner, usual study, and then bed. So that's pretty much their routine. So it's not an exact. It works because, look, at the end of the day, Goa's not a city, it's a state, so you've got players who would have to travel otherwise. So our under 13 and under 15 are non-residential. Players stay at home because, again, it's proven everywhere in the world, keeping kids at home longer rather than putting them into these kind of residential academies works better. Whether you take Japan, you take European examples, it works. Again, here, because of the size of the states, the size of the country, the commuting time would be too much for these kids to do that every single day. And a lot of time would get wasted where they finish school and then they'd have to drive here and drive back. So you'd end up with a lot of kids dropping out. And I think that's something we need to address in India. And it's not just a Goa problem, it happens in Bangalore, it happens in Kerala, everywhere, where you need to start creating little micro centers, go hyper local. But ultimately the problem comes in, we need more matches. So fortunately, because we've got these facilities, normally teams from Bombay come down, teams from Bangalore come down, they stay here, play against us, play against FC Goa, play against Salgaonkar or Sesa. So they come, it's great for them, they come and get 3 or 4 matches. And for us, it's good, we get to play teams from outside. So that's the future, I think, with Indian football. You need more games. We need our. It doesn't matter. We could, train them twice a day at the academy. It's going to make no difference until we start to make sure we get 40 games minimum per season.
Okay. And speaking about the off-field life of a player, right? So we hear a lot about the mental side coming in, because most of them can make it as professionals, but what sets them apart is that mental edge that they gain over other players. So like from a young person's perspective, like do you give them like sessions where you because playing for Dempo is like a big thing, because it's a historic club, iconic club, so it comes with a lot of responsibility of how you carry yourself. So like since we want to like teach them very young about how you want to like operate as a player, to hold that ethos up like of the club. So wherever you go, you're a Dempo player, so you have to like represent the club with that pride. So like how do you like give them sessions like that to like sort of mentor them?
So I think environment makes a player the way they are. You see, when you see the under 23 team, there's training today, they've got a game tomorrow, senior team's training over there, when they next day recovery sessions, ice baths, they're in the gym on days that they need to. So the players who are staying here, they see that. Home matches, we hosted our matches over here, they come, they act as ball boys, or they're watching the games after their training session. So when you're around that culture and you watch, that's what you're trying, like you're an academy boy, you're trying to break into the Goa Pro League team. One player's done it this year. And he scored as well in one of the tournaments. And so the others look up to that. Then players from the under 23 team go into the senior team. So the next players look up to that. So when you see that natural progression, players think, and you realize you need to maintain certain standards. You need discipline. When the moment you start getting paid, when you're an academy player and you're not getting paid, you fall out of line, you make some indiscipline, whatever, there are consequences for it. The moment you get into a professional setup, there are fines. And your contract is based on the duration of your contract, how much you earn, all it's based on behavior as well as what you do on the field. So I think that being in that environment, players start to see that, all right, this is what I need to do if I'm going to make it. And they'll see that majority won't make it. Anywhere, any academy, 2 out of every batch probably make it to becoming a pro. And percentage was the same, whether it's at Chelsea's academy, whether it's at Dempo's, or whether it's at BFC's or Kerala Blasters. Not many kids are going to make it. So if you want to step on it, you have, the more disciplined you are, that's going to make it. And that's a consequence of obviously their upbringing and other social economic factors as well. So that's why we try and drill in that the education is important, because they need something to fall back on. They're not all going to make it as players. So.
And guys, we've come to an end of part 1. Guys, നമ്മുടെ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ ആക്ച്വലി ഏകദേശം 30 മിനിറ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ഇൻസ്റ്റാഗ്രാമിൽ ചോദിച്ചിരുന്നു ഒരു പോളിൽ ഈ വീഡിയോ എങ്ങനെ റിലീസ് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന്, പാർട്ട് 1 പാർട്ട് 2 ആയിട്ട് ചെയ്താൽ മതി എന്നാണ് മെജോറിറ്റി ആൾക്കാർ വോട്ട് ചെയ്തത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെയാണ് ഈ ഒരു ഡിസിഷൻ എടുത്തത്. അടുത്ത പാർട്ടിന് വേണ്ടി നിങ്ങൾ വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക. എന്തായാലും പാർട്ട് 1 ഭയങ്കര ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് ആയിട്ട് തന്നെയാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത്. ഇന്ത്യൻ ഫുട്ബോളിനെ കുറിച്ച് ഇത്രയും നന്നായിട്ട് ഇൻഡെപ്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാൻ അറിയാവുന്ന ഒരാളായിട്ട് ഇൻട്രാക്ഷൻ നടത്തുക എന്നുള്ളൊരു ചാൻസ് ഭയങ്കര അപ്രതീക്ഷിതമായിട്ടാണ് കിട്ടിയത്. പക്ഷേ എന്തായാലും ഐ ഫീൽ ഇറ്റ് വാസ് ടോട്ടലി വർത്ത് ഇറ്റ്. പുള്ളി കുറേ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് തന്നെ സംസാരിച്ചു. ഇന്ത്യൻ ഫുട്ബോളിലെ ഏജ് ഫ്രോഡിനെ കുറിച്ച് സംസാരിച്ചു. ഇന്ത്യ എപ്പോൾ റിയലിസ്റ്റിക്കലി വേൾഡ് കപ്പ് കളിക്കും എന്നുള്ളതിനും അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു ക്ലിയർ റെസ്പോൺസ് തന്നു. ആൻഡ് ആ റെസ്പോൺസ് ഇറ്റ് മേക്സ് എ ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് സെൻസ്, ബിക്കോസ് നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ AFC ഏഷ്യൻ കപ്പിൽ കണ്ടതാണ് നമ്മുടെ ഒരു പെർഫോമൻസും അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് കുറേ ക്രിറ്റിസിസം ഒക്കെ വന്നു. എനിക്കും ശരിക്കും പുള്ളി പറഞ്ഞതിനോട് ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് റിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റി. കാരണം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മൾ ഇമ്പ്രൂവ് ആവുന്നുണ്ട്, ഇന്ത്യൻ ഫുട്ബോൾ ഇമ്പ്രൂവ് ആവുന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷേ ബാക്കിയുള്ള ടീംസ് ഇമ്പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്യുന്ന റേറ്റ് ഭയങ്കര കൂടുതലാണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ ഉസ്ബെക്കിസ്ഥാൻ അങ്ങനത്തെ ടീംസൊക്കെ ഇമ്പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്യുന്ന റേറ്റ് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മളെക്കാളും ഒരു 3-4 ഇരട്ടിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ എപ്പോൾ അത്രയും സ്പീഡിൽ ഇമ്പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്തില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ ഗ്യാപ്പ് ഇങ്ങനെ തന്നെ തുടർന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കും. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു 4-5 വർഷത്തിലൊന്നും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു 4-5 എഡിഷൻ ഓഫ് വേൾഡ് കപ്സിലൊന്നും പെട്ടെന്ന് ഇന്ത്യ ക്വാളിഫൈ ആവും എന്നാരും പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കേണ്ട. പക്ഷേ വി ഹാവ് ടു കീപ് ഡ്രീമിങ്, വി ഹാവ് ടു കീപ് വർക്കിംഗ് ടുവേർഡ്സ് ഇറ്റ്, ബിക്കോസ് ഫുട്ബോൾ ഇസ് ഓൾ അബൌട്ട് മിറക്കിൾസ്. ആൻഡ് നമ്മുടെ ദിവസം എന്തായാലും വന്നു ചേരും. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും പ്രതീക്ഷയോടെ നമ്മുടെ ടീമിനെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുക. ആൻഡ് ഫോർ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് വീഡിയോസ് ലൈക്ക് ദീസ് കീപ് ഫോളോയിങ് അസ്. ഈ വീഡിയോ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടെങ്കിൽ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും നിങ്ങളുടെ അഭിപ്രായങ്ങൾ കമൻറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ രേഖപ്പെടുത്താൻ മറക്കരുത്. ബിക്കോസ് എനിക്കറിയാം നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ചെറിയൊരു ചാനലാണ്, പക്ഷേ നിങ്ങൾ കുറേ പേർ നമ്മുടെ കഴിഞ്ഞ വീഡിയോയിൽ ഇൻറ്ററാക്ട് ചെയ്യുകയും കമൻറ്റിലൂടെ നിങ്ങളുടെ അഭിപ്രായങ്ങൾ രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുകയും ചെയ്തു. അതൊക്കെ വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. കാരണം കുറച്ച് പേരൊക്കെ വീഡിയോസ് കാണുന്നുണ്ട്, ചിലർക്കൊക്കെ അതിൽ വീഡിയോ ഇഷ്ടമാവുന്നുണ്ട്, ചിലരൊക്കെ ഇമ്പ്രൂവ്മെൻറ്റ്സിനുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഇൻസ്റ്റാഗ്രാമിലും യൂട്യൂബിലും ഒക്കെ ആയിട്ട് അയക്കാറുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അതൊക്കെ കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ അടുത്ത വീഡിയോ കൂടുതൽ ബെറ്റർ ആക്കാനുള്ള ഒരു എഫേർട്ടിലാണ് ഞാനും. കുറച്ച് തിരക്കുകൾ കാരണം കുറച്ച് വൈകിപ്പോയി വീഡിയോ ഇടാൻ. കഴിഞ്ഞ വീഡിയോ ജനുവരി 1 ഇട്ടാണ്, ഇപ്പോൾ ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് 28-29 ആയി. അപ്പം അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഡിലേ ഉണ്ട്. പക്ഷേ എന്നാലും നമ്മൾ ഇനിയും പൂർവാധികം ശക്തിയോടെ നമ്മൾ തിരിച്ചു വരും ഗൈസ്. നമുക്ക് കുറേ പ്ലാൻസ് ഉണ്ട്, കുറേ അധികം കണ്ടന്റ് പ്ലാനൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ സെറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും നിങ്ങൾ ലൈക്ക് ചെയ്യുക, ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുക, കമൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക, സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ബെല്ലൈക്കൺ അമർത്താൻ മറക്കരുത്. ബിക്കോസ് അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് നോട്ടിഫിക്കേഷനായിട്ട് ഓരോ അപ്ഡേറ്റും വന്നു ചേരുകയുള്ളൂ. സോ സ്റ്റേ ട്യൂൺ ഫോർ പാർട്ട് 2, ബിക്കോസ് പാർട്ട് 2ലും കുറേ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് ആയ ടോപ്പിക്സിനെ കുറിച്ച് കോച്ച് പ്രാഡ് നമ്മളോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതിൽ വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയ ഒരെണ്ണം കേരള ബ്ലാസ്റ്റേഴ്സ് ആണ്. കേരള ബ്ലാസ്റ്റേഴ്സിൻ്റെ കോച്ചായ ഇവാൻ വുക്മാനോവിച്ചിനെയും നമ്മുടെ ടൈറ്റിൽ ചാൻസസിനെ കുറിച്ചും ഒക്കെ അദ്ദേഹം അഭിപ്രായം പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യൻ പ്ലെയേഴ്സ് ഫോറിൻ ലീഗ്സിൽ കളിക്കാനുള്ള ഒരു ലെവലിലേക്ക് എത്തിത്തുടങ്ങിയോ എന്നുള്ള കാര്യത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും നിങ്ങൾ അടുത്ത പാർട്ടിന് വേണ്ടി വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക, അടുത്ത പാർട്ട് വരുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ കാണുക. ആൻഡ് ഡു ഫോളോ us ഓൺ ഇൻസ്റ്റാഗ്രാം, ബിക്കോസ് ഇൻസ്റ്റാഗ്രാമിലും നമുക്ക് ചെറിയൊരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ഉണ്ട്. ഇഫ് യുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു ബി എ പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദാറ്റ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി, ഇൻസ്റ്റാഗ്രാമിൻ്റെ ലിങ്ക് ഞാൻ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ ബോക്സിൽ കൊടുത്തേക്കാം. അപ്പോൾ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കയറി ചെക്ക് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കുക. എല്ലാവരും എൻ്റെ കൂടെ തന്നെ ഉണ്ടെന്നുള്ള വിശ്വാസത്തിൽ ഞാൻ സൈൻ ഔട്ട് ചെയ്യാണ്. അപ്പോൾ സീ യു ഇൻ അനദർ വീഡിയോ. ബൈ ഫോർ നൗ.